Welcome back. Now, we've all been hearing about how hybrids and electric cars are the future of motoring, but just how popular are they right here in Ireland? And what are the other trends in the country's car buying habits?
Well, Done Deal have this morning released their 2019 Motor Industry Review, and motoring journalist Michael Sheridan is here to give us the highlights. Good morning to you, Michael.
Morning, Michael. Good to see you.
You're about to educate us, Michael, I think.
We're going to ask a lot of stupid questions, my friend.
Give it your best shot.
We're going to pare it all back. Very interesting report,
Very
actually.
comprehensive, yeah.
One of the things, unsurprisingly, I suppose, is that the green wave of motoring is growing. It's coming off a low base, but it's growing very quickly, isn't it?
It is. There's a lot of talk about going electric and going hybrid, and then the government, in what could only be, you have to say, stupidity, said we're going to ban all petrol and diesel cars by 2030 and force everybody into electric cars. That's just not going to happen because the car industry can't do it. They can't meet the supply. And the car industry themselves are finding better and better ways to reduce emissions from car engines. So the green wave has seen the increase in hybrids. And hybrids are great because they're a combination of a traditional engine and an electric motor. So you get part electric car, but it's powered by the engine. So you'll often hear people talking about self-charging hybrids. It needs
a fully
an
electric car is a fully electric car.
Yeah, so it has batteries. So like toys at Christmas, you put the batteries in, and when that toy slows down and when it stops, it won't work again until it has more electricity. That means you have to plug it in.
Yes.
Now, in the past, like only 10 years ago, there was maybe 3 or 4 electric cars registered, and now we're up to the small number of thousands being registered.
Wow, okay.
Because people have charge points at home. There's a grant to help you get a charge point at home, which
How
will
much
allow
is
you...
a charge point, Michael?
It can be, after the grant, about 600 quid.
Okay.
There's a number of different suppliers who'll put a plug in. And what it is it's more than just a 3-pin plug. A 3-pin plug takes maybe a garden hose of electricity.
Yeah.
But a car socket needs a separate thing going onto your fuse board, onto your circuit breakers.
Yeah.
And it puts in maybe nearly a fireman's hose worth of electricity into your car.
Okay.
So it's like lashing on a few kettles. There's a lot of electricity at that socket, so that's why it costs.
Right.
And then they're outside. Usually there's a key, and you plug your car in, and overnight you'll get a charge, depending on how well your electric car takes that electricity in.
Right.
And then, in theory, you keep it charged, and you have the full range of that car until it runs dry again. So if you have, or are thinking of getting an electric car, if you don't get a home charger, you're an absolute idiot, because you'll be relying on the public charging network, which in theory is great, but it doesn't always work. And then you can rock up to a charging point, you're low on electricity, and somebody else is there who's got the same bright idea.
So you have to wait.
You have to wait. Sometimes you rock up to a place and it's not working at all. And maybe you've an app which said, oh, there's one here, and you go, oh, this is great, high tech. I love my apps.
And you drive up and it's not working. Yeah.
No, or else just as you arrive, there's 3 Nissan Leafs in ahead of you. And you're going, well, they've every right to charge as well, and I'm stuck here. So you lose control over your time, which is the biggest trade-off you have to do getting out of a conventional car into an electric car.
And are we seeing a similar jump in terms of sales, in terms of the hybrids as well?
We're seeing a big percentage increase. Now, hybrids are done a big favour in Ireland because Toyota, who are one of the biggest manufacturers in the world, they're frequently number 1, they trade off number 1 and number 2 globally. Yeah. And in Ireland, they're huge because, like Ford and others and Volkswagen, they have a huge dealer network around the country, and there's massive loyalty and awareness of Toyota. They shifted all of their production to just making hybrids. So they're going to promote hybrids and say this is the green way to go, but that's all they can sell because they don't have diesels or petrols to sell. Okay. And let's face it, car companies are there to sell you a product.
And they don't have electric to sell either, do they?
No, the first electric Toyota will be 2023. I was in Amsterdam at a Toyota forum earlier in the week, and I saw the new Lexus UX300. That'll be maybe a year and a half away, and that's a full electric. Okay. But they have hybrids, which is the stopgap. So hybrids will produce less emissions at the tailpipe, which is what we're all giving out about. Yeah. We're saying, look, cities need clean air, and electric vehicles give you clean air where you use them. But let's not forget, in Ireland, your electric vehicle is charged from a peat-burning or a coal-burning power plant. So there is a price to pay in terms of carbon for an electric vehicle. It's just
so
when it drives by,
if you want to go electric, Michael, obviously the Tesla is the fancy electric. But what are the other options available to consumers?
Tesla have actually recently brought in their Model 3, which is their entry point. Now, we're talking 40 grand plus to get you started.
For their most basic.
For the most basic, but it's an impress machine, but that's still a huge amount of money. And that's after you get the 10 grand's worth of grants towards it, but you're still getting a very good car. So that's been significant for Tesla, and they've seen a huge increase in registrations of their car, and they have a base here in Ireland, and you buy it like you would a phone. They've a different way of doing things other than dealerships. But Nissan Leaf has been the flag bearer for yonks because it was the first here, and they've longer range versions now which are really practical, so you can charge in the morning, do a good commute from a few counties away to Dublin or from a few counties away from Cork, there and back without having to rely on a public charging network, and that's really good. So you're talking into the low or the high mid-20s, high 20s will get you started with a brand new one of those. So the Nissan Leaf, Hyundai Kona, Hyundai are a Korean brand. They're a huge global company. They're about the third or fourth biggest car maker in the world. So they have a huge range of stuff.
So the thing is, there's choice now. But there's choice. You know
there's choice, but it's still very small compared to all of the other brands.
Yeah, okay. In terms of manual, automatic, are we heading towards automatic?
There's a shift to auto, and the reason is...
If you pardon the pun.
Yeah.
Hey,
he's done that before.
I'm here all week.
Get his coat, he wants it. Taxi first.
Don't forget to tip your waitress.
Try the meal. But the great thing is with autos, what happens is, OK, if you've got a hybrid car, right, which has an engine, usually a petrol engine, we've gotten so used to rattling, noisy diesels over the years.
Yes.
It's nice to get into hybrid because you've got a petrol engine, so you start, it's quiet. And sometimes it doesn't even start at all because it just needs the electric motor. It has an electric motor that helps it go along, and at times it can run just as an electric car, and at times the engine kicks in. Now, to make that work, you have to use a gearbox that isn't a manual gearbox because it won't work with that. So they all have versions of automatics.
Right.
OK.
I won't get too technical because even I'd fall asleep if I explained it myself. So hybrids are automatics by default. You can't get a manual hybrid.
Right.
So if you've got a car company like Toyota or, say, Kia with their Niro or these other putting out these wonderful hybrids, they're all autos. But the great thing is, outside here, you know, particularly with the tractors, if you were stuck behind or in heavy traffic anywhere, an auto is just fantastic because it's so easy to use. And there's also a new generation of autos for manual cars as well, which doesn't have a penalty for fuel consumption, doesn't have a penalty for emissions, because it used to be just the guy with the Jag or the big car, the ministerial Merc that was an auto. Now everybody can have that sort of premium experience. The only trouble with Ireland is if you do your test in an auto, and we'll have a lot of people doing tests in their parents' cars,
good point.
they're stuck with the auto. So that legislation,
that's all you can drive.
That has to be looked at and tweaked. I think that has to be changed.
Absolutely.
In terms of how people are buying their cars, what did the survey tell us?
Well, the survey was saying that people are still using their piggy bank, that they're using cash that they've stuffed down the sofa, that they have various source from wherever it is, and then so that's over well, roughly half, and then the rest is kind of
we're seeing there on the graph.
The rest is finding finance, and the great thing is when the shutters came down at the downturn, the dreaded crash, and banks said, "Good luck, we've made our money. Off you go. We don't want to see you." Dealers had to stay alive. They had to find ways of creating and making finance so they could get people into cars.
Was that what brought us the PCP thing?
It brought us the PCP thing. And the great thing with PCP is a form of finance which has really become popular because it means you're only paying off a certain amount, nearly half the price of the car over 3 years. And at the end of that 3 years, you give it back. You don't own the car. Or you change into something else.
Yes, but you never actually own the car.
You never own it, but you have, at a lower monthly outgoing, got access to walk around in a fancy car with all the safety features and the low emissions and everything
and the
else.
warranties, etc., etc.
And the key thing, I mean, I know we've got a wonderful fashion element coming up shortly, but cars aren't just fashion. Of course, they want to sell us more stuff, but with every generation, there's more safety features inbuilt into a car that keeps you and I safe and also stops us being numpties and having crashes into things. Like there's a automatic emergency brake, which is going to become standard by EU law. They're making a lot of these things mandatory in time. At the moment, it's still optional on many cars, which is a shame because it's taxed heavily. That will put the brakes on. If you drive into a wall with your foot on the accelerator, holding your cup of coffee while checking your text messages, it will brake the car and stop you hitting something.
Just very briefly, Michael, before we finish up, most popular car still the VW?
On Dundeal, and again, 80% of buyers will go to online to research their new car and their used car. So they found that the Golf is the most popular new and used on their site. In Ireland last year, the biggest selling car was the Toyota Corolla.
As you say, they constantly swap each other.
They're always swapping, and all the big sellers. So if the cars are popular, you know you're kind of safe going there if you don't know much. Another good thing with if you do go online, you can get an accurate price estimation of what your car is worth, so you don't have to necessarily deal with a dealership that you might want to go into. You can also do searches on the car to find if it is what it purports to be, and if there's outstanding finance, so you don't get stung. So
what's
there's
that
lots of things
website,
to do.
Michael?
Well, Done Deal lead the way. They're the
bring you
largest
there.
one, but there are many other websites available. But it's a very significant one in terms of, I think a car is listed every minute on it, and there's about 75,000 cars on it at any one time.
Excellent.
An
A font of
education.
knowledge. Thank you very much, Michael.
Thank you, Michael.
Fondant of knowledge.
Good to see you.